Prelude's keys will be available as a Twitch drop during the Soulframe dev stream this Friday, April 25th. So if you're not already in Midrath, now's your chance to become an Envoy. Here are 5 tips to help you get started. My first tip is a big one and will probably have the largest impact on your early gameplay. Pick for your pact. One of the first things Soulframe will ask you to do is choose your pact. In my new player guide, I explained how you're not just choosing your pact here, but also your starting weapon and faction. You should definitely check out that video if you want a more detailed breakdown of what each of those elements mean, but what I need to mention here is that Soulframe has since implemented faction swapping. That means if you don't like your initial pact or faction, you can check out the other options, but unlocking them takes a while. First, you'll have to rank up to level 3 in your starting faction, and then gain enough faction standing to purchase Sacred Shimmer, a component you need to craft a totem for whichever faction you want to swap to. This currently takes long enough that you will probably get your totem fragments long before you have the standing you need, but just in case, you can get Medallion of Mora fragments from rare chests in the Undercity of Durmak, Sproutfolk Seed fragments from rare chests in the Glades of Andurin, and Rose's Bodkin fragments from rare chests in Midrath. Once you switch to a new faction, you can get that faction's starting pact once you rank up to level 2. But you might not want to switch factions right away. Each faction also has an additional pact you can purchase at rank 5. Mora's Hand for the Kith of Kings, and currently Ode Tempest for both Alka's Children and Silent Rose, but I suspect Alka's Children will eventually have its own unique rank 5 pact. There's also a 1-week cooldown for faction swapping, so once you do switch, you're locked into your new faction for at least a week no matter what. Quick bonus tip here, when you're looking for objects or interactables during your faction quests, holding down the Soul Mode key will highlight those items, making them easier to find. The bottom line is that as a new Envoy, you're going to be stuck with one faction for a while. The quests to increase your standing are functionally the same for all factions, at least for now, and you can still gain entry to the headquarters of every other faction to look around and check out the lore, but you can't buy the other packs from those factions until you swap and rank up. Starting weapons, on the other hand, are very easy to get. Fragments for Solos and Thistle, the sword and the bow, drop abundantly from chests in Midrath, and Odiak fragments drop from the quest you do to rank up your faction standing. Materials come from things like enemy loot, opening chests, and breaking boxes, barrels, and balloons, and you'll want to craft all the starting weapons to level up your blacksmith. This is probably a do as I say, not as I do kind of moment, because I will choose a bow every time over every other option a game gives me, but the weapon really isn't the most important element of this starting choice. In that sense, the game's prompt here, for all that it's a bit misleading, is still good advice. Choose for the pact. I know this first tip has already been really long, but now that I can show them all to you, let's take a quick look at each of those pacts before we move on. Siren is the Pact of Grace, and its 3 abilities are Pictrix Powder, which both staggers enemies and makes them more susceptible to weapon stagger, Trick of the Light, which creates a decoy that draws enemy aggro and then explodes, and Glamour, which turns you into butterflies, making you functionally invisible. Oselda is the Pact of Spirit, and its 3 abilities are Bestone, which turns enemies into stone, freezing them, Elder Bloom, which creates a plant that heals all allies in range, and Phantom Flock, which calls a flock of birds to attack an enemy, staggering them and nearby foes. Tethran is the Pact of Courage, and its 3 abilities are Fellust, which buffs your weapon damage, Call of the Ancients, which draws aggro, buffs your damage, and reduces your damage taken, and Clash, which stuns and staggers nearby enemies. Overall, Siren is great for people who like stealth-focused gameplay, Oselda is ideal for support-oriented gamers, and Tethran is excellent for both tanking and damage dealing. Choose the one you think will make the game most enjoyable for you as you level up weapons and get acquainted with the world. Tip number 2 is prepare for an alpha. Soulframe Preludes is so incredible, it's easy to forget that it's still an alpha. There are moments when the game will remind you, though, and you'll have a better overall experience if you keep the stage of development in mind while you play. An alpha is not feature complete, meaning the game isn't finished at this stage. As the alpha progresses, more content will be added to the game and existing systems might be reworked, adjusted, or even discarded. Rest in peace, Melee Bow, I hope you are gone forever. This means we're not yet in a place where things like endgame or high-level buildcraft exist yet. We're all discovering the potential of this game together, which is a super exciting process to be a part of, but it might get disappointing for you if you get really attached to something that later gets removed or reworked. Be ready for both the highs and the lows of alpha testing. There isn't a lot of guidance for new players right now, and this makes a lot of sense from a development perspective. It's better to figure out how the game is going to work first and then design the process by which new players get acquainted with it. Otherwise, they'd have to redesign the tutorials with every update, which is not at all practical. Fortunately for new Envoys, there are many player-made resources to help you on your journey. I hope this channel will continue to be useful for you. The new player guide I mentioned earlier is linked below, and I'm already working on a deep dive into Pacts and Pact abilities. You'll also want to join the Preludes Discord, which you can find in your Soulframe account once you use your Preludes access key. There you'll discover other helpful player-created resources and help DE by giving feedback and reporting bugs. Remember, a true alpha gamer always replicates their bugs and gives concisely detailed reports to the devs. My third tip is to balance your virtues. Virtues are your 3 character stats in Soulframe, and by balance here I don't necessarily mean to keep all 3 of your virtues exactly equal. Instead, it's useful to know what each virtue does, and then balance them according to how you want to play. So far it looks like virtues have 2 primary functions, the simpler of which is weapon damage scaling. Each weapon is attuned to a specific virtue, and its damage will scale with that virtue. This scaling does have a cap, but the limit is different for each weapon. To figure out a weapon's attunement cap, check the attack rating in your weapon panel as you add more points to its virtue. When you've hit attunement cap, you'll no longer see an increase in damage as you add more virtue points. Some weapons have a requirement in their attuned virtue. You can still equip the weapon if you don't meet that requirement, but you will do a lot less damage. If you don't meet a weapon's virtue requirement, you'll see a small red arrow on the weapon's icon and red text in the weapon's information box. Virtues also affect your Pact abilities, but so far that interaction seems to be fairly weak, possibly because we don't yet have access to the full quantity of virtue points we will get later in the game. We're still figuring out exactly how virtues affect each of the Pact abilities, but roughly speaking, Grace increases the range or radius of your abilities, Spirit increases the duration of your abilities, and Courage is essentially power strength, affecting how much damage abilities do or how strongly they buff or debuff. So balancing your stats means figuring out how many of your virtue points you want to put towards your weapon damage, and how many you want to put towards increasing the effectiveness of your Pact abilities. You should always allocate as many virtue points as you have, as any assigned virtue point will increase your life no matter which virtue you put it in. Tip number 4 is to explore. Soulframe is intended to be an open-world exploration game. You will find quests by wandering up to interesting things and interacting with them. So if you're not sure what to do next, wander around and check out whatever looks cool to you. Most of the quests we have right now start pretty close to where you first appear in Midrath, so check stuff nearby first. There's already a lot to discover. That said, even after you've done what's currently in the game to do, Midrath is gorgeous, and it's worth just traveling around the map and taking in the scenery. There are plenty of new locations to discover, and even though newer points of interest don't yet have lore for you to read or moats for you to claim, eventually they will, so your exploration isn't wasted even for goal-oriented gamers like myself. I'm going to have quite a bit of reading to do when they flesh out these new areas. Enemies do spawn at higher levels as you get farther from your starting point, so keep that in mind if you want to avoid fights that are a bit too spicy for your level. Oh, and one more bonus tip. Watch out for mines. As you're out exploring, you'll periodically wander across these landmines. They make a unique sound which is well worth paying attention to. These mines will one-shot you if you get caught in the blast, so you'll need to either back off fast, perfectly dodge the explosion, or trigger the mine from a distance. You can also use the mines to kill enemies by triggering them at just the right time. My final tip is to play what you like. All of Soulframe's weapons have their pros and cons. Even if you could make a non-satirical argument about which weapons are better or worse, those rankings will inevitably change with the game so early in development, and all weapons are equally capable of tackling the various encounters Soulframe has to offer. Pacts are currently quite strong compared to weapons, but this may be intentional, and they are all strong in different ways. Try them out as you can, and play what is fun for you. Your character gains experience by leveling up weapons and packs, much like Warframe's mastery rank system, so there is incentive to at least try everything, but at the end of the day, you can enjoy Soulframe with whatever combination of pact and weapon makes you happy. So those are my 5 tips for new Envoys. Pick your starting loadout for its pact, prepare for an excellent alpha that is still an alpha, balance your virtues to enhance your combat style, explore Midrath, and play whatever packs and weapons you enjoy the most. If these tips have been helpful for you, please consider helping out my channel with a like or a comment, and subscribe if you want to see more Soulframe content. Until next time, happy hunting!